Could Biden's attempt to safeguard American industries be the very thing that undermines our economy?
President Biden is taking a hard line on Chinese imports, charging a 100% tariff on electric vehicles.
On Tuesday, the president announced a sharp increase in tariffs on a variety of Chinese imports, including electric vehicles, semiconductors, solar panels, and advanced batteries.
With Joe Biden's announcement this week, he increased tariffs on Chinese imports. And some of those tariffs stood out, some of those announcements, like 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, 50% on solar panels, and 25% on steel and aluminum.
The Biden administration hiking tariffs on roughly $18 billion worth of Chinese imports.
From President Biden at the White House, the president is set to address the administration's sweeping new tariffs on $18 billion in Chinese goods.
I'm determined that the future of electric vehicles will be made in America by union workers. Period.
Have you ever tried to solve one problem only to find out you've created 5 new ones? Ever felt like you're caught in a game of chess where every move seems to lead you closer to checkmate? What if I told you that the U.S. government's recent actions might just be setting us up for one of those scenarios? Today, we're diving into a major move by the Biden administration, slapping massive tariffs on Chinese goods, especially in critical industries like electric vehicles and solar panels. On the surface, it sounds like a solid plan to protect American businesses and jobs. But as we'll see, this strategy might be more like playing with fire than building a solid defense. We're going to unpack why these tariffs could be backfiring on the U.S. economy, how China's dominance in key sectors poses a real challenge, and what this means for our future. So, join me, and let's get into the nitty-gritty of why this game plan might need a serious rethink. So, recently, President Biden dropped a bombshell. He announced a massive increase in tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, or EVs. We're not talking a small bump, guys. These tariffs are set to quadruple, jumping from 25% to a jaw-dropping 100%. It's like going from paying $25 for something to suddenly having to cough up $100 for the same item. Pretty wild, right? At first glance, this might look like a bold move to protect American auto companies. You know, give our own car manufacturers a fighting chance against the flood of cheaper Chinese EVs. But there's a lot more going on beneath the surface. Biden didn't stop at EVs. He slapped tariffs on steel, aluminum, semiconductors, and even solar panels. It's a broad swipe at China's stronghold on these critical industries.
Now, Biden wrote on X, quote, "China is determined to dominate these industries. I'm determined to ensure that America leads the world in them."
Think of it like this. You're in a game of tug of war, and your opponent is pulling you closer and closer to the mud pit. So you decide to dig in your heels and pull back with all your might. That's essentially what Biden is trying to do, pull back against China's dominance. But just like in tug of war, if you're not careful, you might end up losing your footing and landing face first in the mud. Picture this. You're at a basketball game and one team is scoring 3-pointers left and right while the other team is struggling to make a single basket. Unfortunately, in the world of steel production, America is that struggling team. Our steel industry has seen better days, producing only about 80 million tons a year. Now compare that to China, which cranks out a staggering 1 billion tons annually. That's over half of the world's steel.
Biden had previously pledged to remove some of Trump's tariffs, but now he's officially endorsing maintaining tariffs on over $300 billion worth of Chinese goods put in place by Trump back in 2018 and 2019.
When Biden talks about the U.S. leading in steel production, it sounds a bit like a coach promising to take a last-place team straight to the championship. It's a great goal, but with the way things stand, it's a tough sell. The numbers just don't back it up. We're not even close to China's level, and it's going to take more than just tariffs to change that. Now, let's switch gears to aluminum. China is the MVP here too, thanks to its powerhouse manufacturing industry. The U.S., on the other hand, is grappling with a shortage of skilled workers and struggling to keep up. It's like trying to win a race with a car that needs a tune-up. We're simply not as competitive in these critical industries, and the tariffs, instead of being a quick fix, might just expose these weaknesses even more. Now, let's talk about electric vehicles, EVs, and solar panels, two industries where China is absolutely crushing it. Imagine a marathon where one runner is miles ahead of everyone else. That's China in the EV market. They account for over 60% of global electric car sales and control a whopping 80% of the EV battery supply chain. They're not just meeting their goals. They've already surpassed their 2025 target for new energy vehicle sales. It's like they were aiming for the finish line, but they've already lapped everyone else. When it comes to solar panels, China's dominance is just as impressive. They produce a staggering 78% of the world's solar modules. Picture a huge pie, and China has taken a massive three-quarter slice, leaving the US and other countries to scramble for the crumbs. Biden's vision of America leading these industries sounds great in theory, but right now it's like trying to catch a speeding train that's already left the station. So, when Biden talks about America taking the lead in EVs and solar panels, it feels a bit like promising to turn a small local coffee shop into the next Starbucks overnight. The ambition is there, but the reality is we've got a long way to go. These tariffs are meant to give us a boost, but they might not be enough to close such a massive gap. Instead, we need a comprehensive strategy to really compete on this level. All right, guys, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the failure of tariffs. We've been down this road before, especially with the solar industry, and guess what? It didn't work out so well. Despite slapping tariffs on Chinese solar panels in the past, China still climbed to the top and now controls 78% of the market. It's like trying to stop a tidal wave with a sandcastle. The wave just keeps coming. American industries, particularly solar panel production, have actually shrunk instead of growing. The idea was to protect and boost our own production, but instead we've seen factories close and jobs disappear. It's a classic case of good intentions, bad outcomes. Even President Biden has admitted that tariffs can be a double-edged sword. He's pointed out that they often end up hurting American consumers and businesses more than they help. It's like trying to heal a wound with a bandage that's too tight. It might stop the bleeding temporarily, but it ends up cutting off circulation. Now, let's talk about another big issue, the clash between tariffs and subsidies. Governments around the world often subsidize industries to help them grow strategically. It's like giving your plants fertilizer to help them thrive. But here's the catch. Biden's tariffs are contradicting the very subsidies the US is providing to sectors like electric vehicles and semiconductors. It's a bit like trying to lose weight while still eating junk food every day. On one hand, we're pouring money into these industries to help them compete globally, but on the other hand, the tariffs are making things more expensive and complicated. It's a mixed message that creates confusion and inefficiency. China does the same thing with its subsidies, and while we criticize them for it, we're not exactly practicing what we preach. This inconsistency creates an image problem for the US on the global stage. Take the issue of banning platforms like TikTok, for example. The US advocates for an open and free internet, but then we turn around and block certain apps. It's like telling your kids to eat healthy while you're munching on a bag of chips. It just doesn't add up. These actions not only muddle our message, but also complicate our foreign policy.
Why is it that America is so uncompetitive when it comes to making electric vehicles?
Now let's dive into the inconsistencies in US foreign policy. On one hand, the US champions open markets and fair competition. We stand on our soapbox and preach about the virtues of free trade. But then, we turn around and slap a whopping 100% tariff on Chinese EVs. It's like saying everyone should play fair while secretly rigging the game in our favor. The real reason behind these hefty tariffs might just be a fear of China's growing dominance in the auto industry. It's like watching a rival team get stronger, and instead of training harder, we try to slow them down by changing the rules. This kind of hypocrisy doesn't go unnoticed and damages America's credibility on the global stage. These contradictions undermine our stance on open markets and fair competition. Other countries start to see us as unreliable partners, which can have serious long-term consequences for our foreign relations and economic policies. It's like being caught talking behind a friend's back. It's hard to regain trust once it's lost.
With respect to the tariffs, our view is that the U.S. would be better served by maintaining open trade policies that have been vital to its economic performance. We also encourage the U.S. and China to work together toward a solution that addresses the underlying concerns that have exacerbated trade tensions between the two countries.
So, what's the bottom line here, guys? Biden's tariffs against China might look like a bold strategy to protect American industries, but there's a real risk they could backfire.
The White House says the increase in tariffs is key to transitioning to green energy here in the United States and increasing the number of manufacturing jobs at home.
We've seen how China dominates in key sectors like EVs and solar panels, and we've also seen how past tariffs haven't exactly done the trick. It's like trying to patch a leaky boat with duct tape. It might hold for a bit, but it's not a long-term solution. Instead of relying on tariffs and sanctions, the U.S. needs to shift gears. We need to put our energy into innovation, boosting our competitiveness, and sticking to fair trade practices. Imagine a sports team that trains harder, plays smarter, and builds better strategies instead of trying to sabotage the opponent. That's the kind of approach we need. The future of the U.S. economy depends on these changes. We have to foster an environment where American industries can thrive on their own merits, not just survive behind walls of tariffs. It's about investing in our strengths, supporting our workforce, and staying true to the principles of fair competition. That's the real game changer we need. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. And to watch the latest geopolitical news, watch this video here.